Okay, here we are. And if you're wondering, where is this exactly? What is all this about? Well, if you check out the link, or the video this is linked to, you'll see that I got a book from a charity shop that's quite old, and it gives lots of folklore, myths, legends around Britain. And so I asked people, suggest places I could look at, and so here we are. The actual location is South Ockendon, but it's not specifically mentioned on here, but I'm looking at some of the aspects of southern Essex. And I'm going to pick out some of the things here. I did find something else that wasn't on here that I'm going to speak about. And also, very briefly, some ancient Rome stuff, because I've got a map of that as well, and why not? There isn't a lot to say, but it might be useful. So, let's get on with it. To start with then, Orsett. Orsett is probably closest to South Ockendon that I could see on here. And apparently there's a couple of myths or legends, whatever you want to call it, that are associated with this. Apparently there's some chalk cliffs or some chalk area where there are some deep shafts. And apparently these were used as a hiding place for Saxons when the Vikings sort of were doing their thing in the 9th century AD. And apparently these were also reported to have led to some sort of fantastic gold mines. But of course nothing's been found just yet. Going up to Basildon, you can make out a bit of a spooky icon there, and that relates to a haunting. Apparently the Holy Cross Church there is haunted, but no one knows who the female ghost is exactly. They've just seen a figure sort of hanging around the churchyard and whatnot. Now we have something a bit more substantial with the haunting at Thaden Boy, I assume that's how you say it, and at Hill Hall. So apparently at Hill Hall there's a ghost there, but there's also a phantom carriage, which apparently belongs or is associated to the Duke de Morrow, who was an eccentric who lived there from around 1900 to 1908. And apparently on the midnight of May the 31st, you can see his carriage driving up and down the drive there. Going that way and to Hadley, we've got the home of James Murrell. James Murrell lived there between 1812 and 1860, and apparently he was the last witch doctor of Essex. And he had all sorts of spells that he could use to help people and do various other things. This included a mirror, a magical mirror, which apparently could find any lost object. Now, before I get to the Roman bit, there are two things I found which weren't in the book, which I think are worth mentioning, or at least I found really quite interesting. The first is apparently a poltergeist or poltergeist activity at Coalhouse Fort, which apparently is near to South Ockendon or not too far from it. And this involves a poltergeist called Henry, who's particularly active in the washroom. And then there's St Margaret's Church in Bowers Gifford. And it's there that there's apparently a ghost or someone or something which plays the organ that no one else can see. So people have apparently heard the organ being played, or it started playing on its own. And people driving nearby, particularly along the country lane, have experienced weird problems with their cars. Apparently the lights just don't work anymore or things like that. Again, you know, these are all tales being told, but I find this stuff great. Anyway, now let's look at some of the Roman stuff. When it comes to Rome, there isn't a great deal, to be totally honest with you, but there are some things. Again, we're looking in sort of that area around there, and you can see that there is an empty triangle, and that means there's some sort of substantial building that's been found. It hasn't yet been identified. And those blue diamonds means there's pottery or tile manufacturing going on there, or sites associated with it. So there's obviously something thematic that's going around there. And again, this doesn't mean there isn't anything there. It's just that means that we haven't found something there. It could be other things. Hopefully we will come across in due course. Anyway, I hope that gave you more information about the area that you asked about. And as I've said in the previous video, if you've got any comments, go back to that video. If you want requests or if you want to ask anything more about this one, stick them in the comments here.